All right. Good afternoon or good evening, everyone. How are we doing? You all are such rock stars for being here, skipping the poster reception. I do hope that you all got to grab a glass of wine. I picked up mine, like I ran and I got one. So welcome, everyone. My name is Ruchika Prakash, and I'm a professor in the Department of Psychology at Ohio State University. I'm also the secretary of the Women Faculty SIG. I wanted to officially welcome you all to our annual meeting, career panel, and a networking event as well. I'm going to give you a brief introduction about our SIG, what we do and who we are, and then right after that, we're going to get into our panel. So hopefully I can get these slides to work. So the Women Faculty Special Interest Group, it was formed a couple of years ago, so we're still a relatively new group, and we're building our community, and we're building our leadership, and figuring out the kind of initiatives that we want to be hosting in the coming future. So our SIG is really dedicated to building networks across career stages. So we all remember when we were in trainee stages, when we were students and postdocs, and we had these wonderful networks that we have been carrying forward, but especially as we transition into faculty roles, and within faculty roles as well, as we transition into leadership roles, it's equally important to have these communities, to have these networks, and our goal is to have these, build these networks through different programming that is specifically tailored to faculty members. So we're hoping to do that as we get started with the formation of the SIG and continuing the activities of the SIG. We are also wanting to promote visibility and equity at OHBM. So our mission really is to advance the visibility, recognition, and impact of women scientists at OHBM. We're all acutely aware of the gender gap, especially when it comes to representation and visibility. So through really being involved in the leadership at OHBM, but also talking to different committees about how we can promote our women scientists, one of our missions really is to bring our women scientists to the forefront of OHBM leadership, as well as the activities that are happening at OHBM. And then also providing mentorship and career stage support. As I mentioned before, we all have benefited, especially early on in our career stages, from a wonderful mentorship that we have received. But somehow that kind of stops once we get to the faculty level. But we really want to strengthen mentorship opportunities and supporting critical career transitions. So not just at the assistant professor level, but also at the associate as well as the full professor level, and then helping our peers take on the next step towards leadership. So we've been identifying these three goals really as the mission for our Women Faculty SIG. So here is the structure of our committee. Hyang-Won Lee, who is a professor at Ewha Women's University in South Korea, is the current chair of the Women Faculty SIG. And Jean Chen, who is a professor at the University of Toronto. And if I say your name, if you can just stand up and wave to everyone, because these are the women who have been really working hard this past 2 years to come up with the activities, the mission statement of the SIGs, and we meet once a month to promote the different work that the SIG is going to be doing. So Hyang-Won Lee is unfortunately not able to make it, but Jean is right here. So Jean was the founding chair of the Women Faculty SIG. I was going to say, hold your applause for the end, because there's going to be a lot of us. And then Dr. Amanpreet Badwar, who's an assistant professor at the University of Montreal. Associate now, woo! And that's what we're going to be celebrating. And she's going to be our incoming chair for the Women Faculty SIG. I am currently the outgoing secretary for the SIG, and Valentina Lorenzetti is going to be the incoming secretary. And in addition to that, we've had a number of officers. So we have Jian Lu from the Catholic University of Korea, who's serving as our treasurer, Linda Ma, who's our diversity officer, Jingwan Chen, our arts officer. If you haven't gathered a pin, make sure you collect one of these OHBM Women Faculty SIG pins. They're kept right here. And Jiangwen designed these, and they're wonderful, and designed our logo as well. Jody, who's our social media officer, and Merel, who's our social events officer, and Natasha Taylor, who's our trainee liaison officer. So please stand up and let's give everyone a round of applause for the wonderful work they've been doing. So at OHBM 2025, our SIG organized 2 events. One of those is right here, this roundtable discussion about our panel that's about to happen. And then we organized a symposium on sex, gender, and brain from research to clinical practice that happened a couple of days ago. So without further ado, if you haven't joined the Women Faculty SIG, please go ahead and join that. This is our web page. There's a simple short link, bit.ly/OHBM Women. Complete the form. So when you get to our web page, there's a form that says get involved. Go ahead and subscribe to that. And we also have a pretty active Slack group. Sometimes I say a little too active, but you're welcome to join that, and we post information about the different initiatives that we are doing. And one last thing before I hand it over to Merel. We have open positions at the SIG, so we are looking for a chair-elect, a secretary-elect, communications officer. So if you are interested in any of these roles or interested in learning more about the SIG, please come find one of us, and we would be happy to talk to you about the different initiatives that we have planned and how we all come together to just really promote women faculty at OHBM. So with that, I'm going to introduce Dr. Amanpreet Bhardwar, who is our incoming chair for the Women Faculty SIG, and she's going to say a few words before we start our panel.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for making the time to be here as opposed to the wine. I'm an associate professor at the University of Montreal, Canada, and it's my real honor to be the incoming chair for the Women's Faculty SIG. I've been a OHBM member since my early postdoctoral days, and I don't think I would be standing here today if not for the wonderful, wonderful mentorship from our women faculty and the support from these, at the time, student postdoctoral SIG. So it's a real heartfelt thank you. Going forward, we have some very, very exciting things lined up. We will continue our symposium, which was standing room only, level packed this year, so that's a huge accomplishment for us. We would also like to go forward with a yearly programming, a full year programming in the next year, where we would like to really highlight our excellent women faculty members and their topic of research through an online seminar series. And we have started some discussions with the OHBM Central to make that happen. So that's, I hope we'll be able to highlight both our senior researchers and our mid-career and incoming researchers. So I think that would really take the focus from us not being represented enough to really highlighting in a devoted time the wonderful science that we do. The other thing that be in the lookout for is a paper, probably for imaging neuroscience on our symposium topic, which is going to stay constant for a couple of years since there's so much to cover in that field. There are also other wonderful networking and leadership seminars that will be coming up. And as Ruchika pointed out, we will have an open call soon for additional positions. So on that note, I will pass it to Merel, who is chairing the panel today.
Thank you very much for the introduction. So as said, we will proceed with our roundtable now. We have some very exciting and very inspiring panelists lined up. So if I can please ask the panelists to join us on the stage. So the questions are open from anybody from the audience. If there's anything you would like to ask to the panel, please just stand up. There is a microphone there. At any point, if you have some comments on something, we really try to make it as interactive as possible. So please feel free to speak out. Last year, we asked you what were topics that you were interested in and things that you wanted us to address a little bit more. And some topics that really came up were mainly work-life integration, leadership effectiveness, and strategic career development. So we will mainly touch upon these topics during the roundtable, but as I said, if there's anything else you would like to discuss, please do so. So with that being said, I would like to start with the introductions. First, I will introduce myself, actually, because I haven't done that yet. My name is Merel van der Thiel. I'm a postdoctoral researcher in Maastricht, and my work is mainly focused on the glymphatic system or the waste clearance system of the brain. And I'm also the social events executive from the Women Faculty SIG. That's why I'm here today. So if you could please continue with the introductions, that would be great.
Hello, I'm Jodie Naim-Farrell. You can all hear me? Okay. So my background is a little bit mixed. I started in cognitive neuroscience for my PhD, postdocs in a physics of complex systems lab, came back as a lecturer at Monash University, and then shifted back into biomedical engineering for full-time research. So it's been a little bit all over the place. So I do a lot of different things with like wearables, brain stimulation, EEG, just to cover a few topics.
Hello everyone, very nice to be here. I'm Helen Zhou from National University of Singapore, and I'm an associate professor there as well as a director for the Center for Translational MR Research. My background is in computer science, but I also do some training in the neuroscience and neurodegenerative disorders, fMRI, EEG, before I come back to set up my own lab in the School of Medicine there.
Okay, it's a good thing I didn't mention what I do. So I actually, I have a very varied background as well. I trained in omics, and then I moved on to imaging. So I combine imaging and molecular omics to look at healthy aging and neurodegeneration, mostly looking at early biomarkers and therapeutic targets in Alzheimer's, vascular dementia, and other dementias. So if you want any integrative brain-body work, then feel free to reach out.
Hi, I'm Susan Buchheimer. I am from UCLA. I am now a professor emeritus at UCLA, just having retired after over 30 years there. I'm trained as a clinical neuropsychologist, and I trained did my internship at Yale and then my postdoctoral fellowship at the NIH, where I was very fortunate to be present when they had the first human PET scans. And so I was a PET researcher until fMRI was invented, and then I was an fMRI researcher for these many, many years, mostly focusing on memory aging, but also on neurodevelopment and in developing fMRI approaches to clinical translation and for use in the clinic. In fact, developed the protocols that are now FDA approved for pre-surgical fMRI.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ruchika Prakash, and I'm a professor in the Department of Psychology at Ohio State. I'm also the director for the Center for Cognitive and Behavioral Brain Imaging. Susan just stole my thunder because I was about to say I may be the only licensed clinical psychologist here at OHBM. But my background is in clinical psychology and cognitive neuroscience, and my lab focuses on brain aging, both healthy as well as pathological aging, and then designing interventions. So we're focused on mindfulness meditation and how it improves cognitive and affective functioning in older age. So yeah, happy to be here.
So my name is Nicola Palomero, and I work at the Research Center in Jülich and have my, let me remember, associate professor position at Düsseldorf University, which is where I also do my teaching. My research, like methodologically, it's followed the same line. It's post-mortem analysis, hardcore anatomy, with a focus on distribution of receptors for classical neurotransmitters. And then the variability comes into whether I'm studying the human brain, the macaque monkey brain, the rodent brain, the healthy brain, or a particular animal model for disease, or even human patient cases. So if you have any questions about anatomy, that's where I'm confident.
Great, thank you all so much for these great introductions. It is amazing to see how many women leaders we have here on the panel today. So I would like to start with a question about that, about leadership. I was wondering, how do you end up in leadership roles? Is this something that you have actively pursued in your career, or you kind of naturally fell into them? And how do you prepare for these leadership roles? Yeah, please just shout out if you have anything to.
So my motivation to get into leadership roles was, unlike many of you, I didn't really have too many champions putting me on the stage. And I really wanted to be a face for underrepresented leaders. I think that was like really my true motivation to, be in a place where the voice of minorities could be heard. So I started off with the student postdoc SIG at OHBM, and OHBM, I think if you have to start in leadership anywhere, OHBM is the place to do that. All our voices are heard and implemented. So I think I was very lucky to end up at OHBM, and I've since been very lucky to be able to be in diverse leadership roles at OHBM, at the Student Postdoc SIG, the Diversity Committee, the Brain Arts SIG, and the various members of various committees. So, but my true motivation was really to have a voice in what I felt was an underrepresented place for ethnic minorities.
Oh, sure. Hi. Well, thank you for initiating this great community within a great community, and for being kick-ass women. I mean, yay. This is maybe a little bit tangential to like what you want this session to be about, so I don't want to create a huge discussion here, but I just wanted to, I saw on your mission slide as a SIG that one of your goals is to kind of, advocate for the visibility of women in this community. And I noticed that OHBM had a great streak of about 7 or 8 years of alternating the Glass Brain Awards between men and women, which was broken last year. And in general, there is a little bit of a, it seems like there's almost a move towards like the core awards of the Glass Brain and the young, the main 2 awards going to men, and the other awards, which are also very important, but a little bit softer in terms of like mentorship and DEI, going to women. And so I just wanted to bring that on your radar as a SIG, and maybe that's something where, advocacy could give us a lot of visibility in terms of like nudging OHBM towards taking that into consideration.
Could I?
Please go ahead.
I'll take that because I was part of the
Please.
award blah blah decision committee this year. Gender diversity isn't the only factor that we have to take into consideration. Anything, not just the awards, but also oral sessions, speakers, keynote lecturers, everything. There's also geographic diversity. And there's some cases in which you've got 2 people that are, equal, and it's like, well, only if we don't give this person the award this year, then so gender isn't the only one, and definitely this year during the discussions that we had, because I was there, we did, aim to keep a balance,
I agree,
also
I mean-
gender, and keeping that in mind, and remembering previous years' ones as well. And there's also the strict rule that a Talarach lecturer have to alternate every year. So it is something that the committee is maintaining. But gender isn't the only thing, the only diversity point. So it at one point gets a bit difficult to balance everything.
Yeah, I agree. I've been on the committee, so it's a hard one to do. But this is the Women's Faculty SIG, so I think it's an opportunity for advocacy.
I was the first woman to win the Glass Brain Award, and I was very happy to do that. And there have only been a couple of us so far. I do have to say, I think that there is a generational problem that when I started out here, we were outnumbered probably, 8 to 1, 10 to 1. And now in the membership, we're almost 50-50. So although I think that this is a problem today, I think as long as we maintain a really good community here, that is going to change a lot as we go forward.
Yeah, and the second Glass Brain winner was Leslie Angeloter, the late
Yes.
Leslie Angeloter.
Yes.
I just got up to say, if you are talking about the nominating committee, there's one other thing to think about. If those applications don't get to the nominating committee,
I think that's
it's not going to happen.
Can I underscore that? Because I never thought I was going to get the Glass Brain Award. But Lucina Udin and other women got together and said, no, we are going to nominate a woman and we're going to get a lot of letters of support. And I think that is something that we can all do for each other. There are 2 deserving women standing in line right now, for example.
One sitting down just next to them.
Yes, and one sitting down just next to them.
Yes.
So I think that this is something that we should make a point of doing every year. Like, let us think of women for all of these awards and nominate them, because if you're not nominated, you're definitely not going to get the award.
And use your allies. Use
And
your
use your
male
allies.
allies. How many nominating letters have you participated on, Susan, Randy, where we've had 10, 12 people of all sorts of geographies and genders? It's not just about us nominating each other. It's about bringing our colleagues in. And
Rallying the
so
troops, yeah.
go out there and do it.
So one of our goals for the Women Faculty SIG, and I'm speaking to all on the executive committee, is to make sure this happens this coming years. And what we can do is to put together those nominations. And then, of course, there are so many other factors that go into consideration. So we definitely have one task down for us for this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, putting together, collecting all the letters of support.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have a question. This came up at the Roundtable postdoc about, and we were talking about it, and I think it's really important point, is I'm curious from each of you on the panel, when and for what how do you learn to say no? When should you say no, and how do you go about doing it?
Could you spell that?
So I still haven't learned, and I don't know if I'll be able to. I do try, but yeah.
Can I offer a different perspective on this?
Sure.
And that this is just, again, an N of 1. I have said yes to a lot of things, and I think that has also been one of the reasons for being successful and for having doors open. So yes, I think there's a lot of narrative about we should be saying no, and in fact, I do have a nobody, so not a nobody, but a nobody, who I consult with whenever there is an offer. But I think early on in my career stages, and even up until more recently, I said yes to a lot of things. Even when the Women Faculty SIG was being formed, and I just happened to be in that room, and they were like, we need people in the leadership position. Would you do it? I said yes. And I think it's really led to this great community of female scientists that I would not have known otherwise had I not said yes to that. So I've had a different perspective on that. This is not to say that you say yes to everything, but I have said yes to a lot of different things. Some have panned out and others have not panned out. So that's been my experience in my career trajectory, but that probably also contributes to a lot of other issues that we won't talk about.
I want to just underscore that and very much agree. I think that for women, it's harder to become leaders, and one of the ways that we do become leaders is to make ourselves seen more, and that we do that by saying yes. And so I did the same thing early in my career. I said yes to all kinds of collaborations that I never thought were of remote interest to me, but then panned out incredibly and were very successful. It's very hard early in your career to know what's going to work out well and what is not. And so saying yes to many things, although in the long term may add up and be a problem when you're first starting out, is a great pathway to leadership. And I never learned how to say no. And when I retired and I had to find people to fill all the different roles I had, I ended up realizing that I had appointed 3 people to fill my role when I retired, which meant that I'd been doing the work of 3 people this whole time and hadn't quite realized it. But I had a good friend who was very good at this, and one of the things she always did was she would never say yes until she had 24 hours to think about it, because I think reflexively we say yes. I think as women sometimes we're taught to say yes, and to say, yes, let me just think about that for 24 hours, because sometimes that's enough to just say and ask the question, if I say yes to this, is this going to actually benefit my career, or am I just saying yes to be nice? And that's kind of the question that you have to ask yourself before you say yes. I think that's very helpful.
I might add to that. So I actually have 3 fairly young kids and full-time research, and so sometimes I just feel like I'm just sprinting all the time. And again, with the visibility, I do feel like I have to say yes, because it's very easy to disappear out of the system, obviously. And so it's been a really hard balance. And actually last week, there's another committee I'm on in a leadership role, and I was like I'm going to hit the wall. And I stopped and spoke to the committee about it. And it was great, because they were like, okay, we get it. We get you've got lots of grants, you've got lots of things. But it was very hard to take pause and say, hold on, I'm human, they're human, they'll get it. But I think it was a really big challenge to actually ask for help in this regard. And I think maybe that's something that should be more common, that it's okay to express when things are, a little bit too much. So I found that was a successful tactic. Yeah.
I want to add something to that. If I want to think about the science and research collaboration, I will just follow my heart. And if I feel excited, I will say yes. If I'm not very excited, I will say no. But when it's come to the admin, usually the leadership means there is a lot of admin job, right? And then people come to you, say, can you help with this, and how can you help with that? I'm managing this imaging center and basically providing services to some of them. And then I have this passion to help people, but there's always a limit. So I really agree with Susan. Like, I always give myself 24 hours, or even sometimes 48 hours to think it through, because requests just keep coming in, and you need to really prioritize things. And when I started early, my supervisor, who is a very good man, said, okay, you need to learn how to say yes and ask other people to consider you as a yes person, but you can secretly say no. You need to learn that. Yeah, so when I started my lab, I try to say yes a bit more in terms of collaboration, because I need a scientific networks and everything. But as you go up a bit, then I try to say no a bit more. Yeah, like recently, when they asked me to do some committee, to review some things, I said, okay, I really swamped. So I just have a very polite email. I say, maybe next time, this next year, this time, we have more time. Yeah.
So I'd like to add to that. I naturally say yes to several things because I'm interested in a diverse range of things. But I think my litmus test of saying yes or no is really I ask the question back to the person asking me as to why do they think I should be doing this, and why are they picking me as the candidate to do it. And if they can't give me a strong enough answer, so I really interview the person or the organization, and if they can't convince me as to why they're asking me to do it, I have no problem saying no. So that's my way.
Well, thank you. It's nice to see a kind of a convergence in some ways and some differences. And in Rotterdam, for example, when I was there were 11% women professors, and then at a certain point they had quotas for committees and things like that. And then it was, in order to fill the quotas, a lot of women were asked to be on certain committees, and it became, yeah. So.
That's also a big thing for diversity committees, and we call it the diversity tax. And it's a big problem, and I say no to those.
Hi, my name's Rinki Singh. I'm a doctor from London in the United Kingdom. And it's really a comment and maybe some advice from the panel and all of you here. So I'm a neurologist, and I'm not a neuroscientist. I'm a clinician. I'm a neurologist and a neurophysiologist. And I wished, essentially, I'm interested in epileptic networks, and I'm interested in cognitive neuroscience, which is why I'm here at the OHBM. So it's 2025, and there are still issues for women, both for entry into neuroscience and the way that they're treated. And I'm just going to give you just a very brief kind of personal story, which, to my knowledge, I haven't publicly given before. So I got very inspired by following my clinical training in London. I was very inspired to learn more about the science of epileptic brain networks, and I went to France, and I wrote a couple of papers both on insular networks and emotion in prefrontal epilepsy. And they got published in a high-impact American journal. And in fact, in December 2022, I had the front cover of, a high-impact journal. And of course, as a clinician, I was super excited about this because it was a little bit unexpected. But I was, thrilled because I was excited to participate in science and my trajectory. And I'd actually got funding at this stage to do, be a part-time clinician and a part-time academic neuroscientist. I was then hacked on Twitter and subsequently on YouTube, on social media. And it was pretty nasty, immediately a few days following this front cover. After that, for the last 2.5 years, things have been very difficult. So, I trained for since 1994 in medicine and neuroscience. I did all the right stuff. I took training at the best centers, educated myself. And I got a good consultant position based on my kind of skills. And subsequently, after this event, I had further nasty events, such as malwares on my computer, such that it stopped working, really unpleasant messages, such that I had to stop using the internet for a while. And of course, that has a significant impact on your reputation if you're a clinician. My mental health, it's great, So I'm interested in emotion neuroscience. So there was kind of misinformation and disinformation about my mental health, which I find incredibly annoying because I'm quite interested in emotional networks. And, it kind of brings the whole field into disrepute scientifically. And essentially I had to give up my clinical position because it was untenable. So I used to earn £5,000 a month, and now I earn nothing. And this is all within 2 years, okay? So I want to ask, just because I have been a bit isolated, I had a PhD position, I had to give that up in London because things got very difficult. So first of all, I want to ask, is this, because I've never spoken out publicly about this, and I wasn't really expecting to. Not knowingly either, I've also been subjected in the last 2 years to things which I suspect are deep fakes and fake messages. I know that they are. I'm quite good visually, so I can see that they're not exactly three-dimensional, etc. But I haven't understood why, because all I was trying to do as a woman, as an ordinary doctor, and somebody who was really super excited to enter into the neuroscientific field, was just to, first humble entry point into science, which was, a PhD. So I haven't understood why that has happened, why it should be happening in 2025, and why at all it's culturally acceptable in any culture. So first, it's because I haven't spoken publicly before. In my own field, I haven't come across this. Have you come across stories like this?
So it's happened to me, not in the way you're describing it, but when I started my faculty position, I had a website, and I started getting so in Canada, in Montreal, you need your website in both English and French. And even though they were in both languages, there were complaints written about me to the French language ministry as to my French website was not good enough, which is untrue because I had a translator translate the English to French. I was getting letters from the ministry that I was, I was not following the provincial law, etc., etc. And I was just starting out, and it was during COVID, and I really didn't know what to do, because a lot of my colleagues, male colleagues who are French and do not have a French website, never got these letters. So I was lucky enough in the sense that the university kind of took a stand and wrote back to, but there was a letter to the ministry, and then there was a letter to just a public forum. So the university kind of said it's a personal website. She's allowed to do whatever she wants, and that there's nothing wrong with the French website that she has. In fact, it's better than most of our other websites that our professors have. But I still, to this day, live in fear that they might find something else wrong with my website or something else and make my life hell. So I kind of make a point to really not put too many personal information out there if I don't have to. It doesn't answer your question, but I just want you to know that you're not alone, and then that many of us might not speak up about things.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I actually didn't have I didn't have a personal website. I didn't put up much personal information, maybe just one or two pictures.
So this was a lab website, it wasn't a personal website, right?
But the unfortunate thing is the targeting has continued for 2.5 years, such that it's very difficult if you're a professional not to use the internet, not to have an internet profile. It impairs your work. And I think, unfortunately, I wasn't supported by my university. I was, in fact, isolated. I think I was supported to an extent, but people were scared to communicate. So the first rule is you should never be scared to communicate. And essentially, the people who are now talking about compassion and empathy, who are giving leadership, is the way that you show that you care is you turn up and you put an arm around the shoulder. It's not difficult to speak to somebody, and you solve difficult situations by communication. And the second point is, there's I've seen a lot of emotion neuroscience stuff at this OHBM, is the message that in 2025 or 2022, 23, 24, 25, we should not be weaponizing the mental health of women to diminish them. It's completely, utterly unacceptable. And we have to say this, because this was a strategy that was used against me. It's a strategy that is basically, it's medieval. If we don't stand up and do something about this, somebody will be standing here at 3025, if we still exist, at the OHBM with similar issues. So, I don't actually know what to do, because I've actually had to step away from all aspects of my work, for which I trained extremely hard for. There hasn't been any accountability or explanation.
May I just intervene and say that this sounds like, and I'm really sorry that you went through this, and it sounds like a pretty personal situation. Maybe we should have a little bit of a discussion after the panel so that Merel has quite a few other questions that she has to get to, and there's somebody behind you who's standing. Well, thank you for sharing your experience.
I just wanted to say, I know it's a personal story, but the reason I'm telling, I've never had such an issue before this, okay? And the reason I've stood up is because, much to my surprise before this happened to me, this is still an issue for women. Mm-hmm. It's an issue for a woman who lives in a Western democracy, in a first world country. So if you're not safe there, other women across the world who wish to do neuroscience, where can you be safe?
Hi everyone, thank you for giving us the opportunity to attend the meeting. My name is Hanem. I recently graduated from UQ with a PhD in AI and computer science. It was a multidisciplinary project with the medical health and imaging, and I'm personally interested in the application of AI in the healthcare and how to improve the patient's outcome and utilize the resources efficiently. But as a woman, a mom, and a wife, and has a lot of other responsibilities, I want to hear from you, if you please, some advices, tips, techniques to pursue my career, especially in research, while take care of other responsibilities. Because since I submitted my thesis last year, in January 2024, I'm applying for a postdoc position, and I have a big folder with a lot of application, old one, and currently under review or a revision. And the opportunities are very limited. I don't know if this is for women or for everyone. This is the first struggle. I'm working as a data and machine learning engineer in one of the industry, in a company right now, but I don't feel myself belong to the industry. I feel myself belong to academia and research. I like to share knowledge. I like to have impact. I like the science. I like when I'm here, I feel myself belong to this community or to this environment. This is one, so please, if you can share some tips and tips and advices for the career path and how to join or start my career as a researcher. The second thing, please, for all of us here in the room, when you are hiring and you have the interview, please respond to the unsuccessful candidates before the successful candidates, because I was waiting for the response every time. I have the interview, then the last question, when I should hear from you, then, for example, by mid of next week. I wait until the end of the week, no update. Then the next week, and then I just send, hi, please, if there is any update. Oh, sorry, unfortunately, we select another candidate, or I receive a call that you did great, your skills, blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Can we keep your CV or your application with us? So you know that I'm not a successful candidate. Why you are waiting until I call you? This is very stressful. And especially for the early career researcher, or for someone who's waiting for, good response or even bad response, it's, for me, it's very annoying and very tough when I ask for that every time. I have to wait until I send them and so on. Thank you so much.
I think it's appropriate when you apply for a job or a postdoc to let me know either way. Of course, people are supposed to tell you if you're not on a short list. That's polite. But some people just are rude and don't do that. And I think it's perfectly appropriate to ask in advance, if I'm not right for this position, I understand, please let me know because I have other options, and keep on applying. I think applying to positions with other women, like in this group, is always a good idea because they're going to look at you more closely. I think for women particularly women who do math and engineering, there is a bias. There's an implicit bias. Maybe sometimes it's an explicit bias, but there's certainly an implicit bias that women can't be very good at this, so they are not considered as easily for these positions, and that's been studied and it's well known. So it means that you may have to look a lot harder for positions. It should not be that way, but it's the reality of life right now. I've actually had to advise one of my postdocs to only use her initials in applications and not to use her name, so that her gender was not apparent, because she was a mathematician, but it was just assumed that she was not going to do a good job because she was female. And in fact, in one of my earliest papers, where there was one of the earliest things that I did in my career was computationally unfolding the hippocampus, and we did that in a paper, and then and we did a second paper, and we added Paul Thompson to it because he'd done some registration, and from then on it was always assumed that Paul Thompson was the one who had done all of the computational work, because of course he was male and he was he was still a graduate student at the time. So there is this bias. And you mentioned your background, so I can see that bias. And the only other thing I can recommend, other than spending more time interacting with other women, being in places like this, networking as much as you can, getting women mentors or women in positions who can help you, even if they themselves can't hire, maybe they know someone who can, and networking that way just to get your foot into the door. If we wait for men to show good behavior in the hiring practices, we'll be waiting a very, very long time. So you can't do that. You just have to put yourself out there. I will say that I have found two things very important throughout my career, and I started at a time when it was perfectly legal for people to not hire you if they thought you were going to get pregnant, or to fire you if you were, or it was very different when I was younger. At least now they have to hide it. That's what they're doing. One thing was to be proactive in doing things like organizing symposia, organizing events, being initiating the leadership to do things. because that's how you get yourself known as a leader. Don't wait for any opportunities or hope that somebody asks you. You get out there and start organizing. Your name gets out there, your face gets out there, to always give talks rather than posters when you're at meetings so people see your face. There are lots of things you can do to show yourself as being a leader. And the other thing that I have found helpful is the way people express themselves. I think as women, we are taught to express ourselves in ways that are very conciliatory and very nice. And I think lots of times when I hear my women students speak, they speak in questions instead of in statements, and just little things like that. That we are raised, or many women are raised to be conciliatory and nice and reach consensus, and men are not raised that way, and they don't speak that way. I was raised, I didn't have a mother, and I had no women to look up to. I was raised by an arrogant, narcissistic male and an older brothers, and an older brother who was also narcissistic. And I learned to speak the language of that was the language that I learned. I didn't know till much, much later that most women didn't speak that way. And I think unlearning the language that we are taught about being conciliatory and being nice and looking for consensus, not that we can be nasty or rude, but we can be definitive in our communications. And when we tell others that we are competent and communicative and we know what we're doing, even if we don't feel it deep inside, people will listen more. It's just a trick, really.
If I can quickly add to that, I mean, in addition to reaching out to women faculty here or elsewhere, I would highly encourage you to network with the men present at this conference as well. I mean, I think this is the place to network. And instead of like telling them how you're going to fit into their lab, it might be an idea to say how you will add strength to their lab. What new skills are you bringing? Why hiring you will make their life so much easier. I'm really like, I never try to blend in. I try to like, this is the strength I will bring to your lab, so this is why you need to hire me.
And then one thing that we can do at the OHBM Women Faculty SIG is that we have a listserv. So what we could also use that listserv is for people who are looking for jobs versus people who are wanting to hire. So if you send us a blurb of, your background and experiences and what kind of position you're looking for, we can advertise that on the listserv as well.
Thank you so much. Yep. I just wanted to speak to the first question, which was about balancing with family and things like that, because I've spent a long time trying to do this juggle. Actually, I might just tell a small story from my experience. I was working, I did a lot of research, then went into lecturing, and the university wanted me to stay in my role lecturing. But at nights, during COVID, lockdown with 3 kids, I was still sitting there writing papers. So I knew where my passion was to get back to research. And it dawned on me that they would not give me a pathway back to research because they wanted me to stay where I was, because they wanted me to continue in this lecturing role. And it was a really big challenge, because then you have to be very confident to say, why are they not moving me? Is it because I'm not good enough? What's the reason? And when I met with someone, the director of research, I was told that it's because I had not a straight trajectory. Now, I had 3 kids in 6 years, plus I was caring for my father was terminally ill, plus publishing between that. So it was not a straight trajectory, but then I actually, in that moment, I made a decision that I was leaving. I gave my notice pretty much the next week, and I actually jumped to another lab, and in the interview, and actually my colleagues here, they saw my motherhood as a strength. Mm-hmm. And I'm currently in a department which really celebrates the strength of multitasking, motherhood, things like that, and it's a huge difference. And I've seen over the last 10, 15 years how I I do feel like things are getting better, like we were talking about before. Like, you can't compare to 10, 15 years ago. Like, sure, you'd get whatever, I know every country's different, a few months off or weeks off for maternity leave, and then it's assumed, okay, you're back in. But, you know, the networking loss, the productivity loss, all of that, it's really hard to keep fighting to stay in. And I think I'm just very stubborn because I just keep going. But it's a big challenge, and hopefully it will get better. And I think these kind of meetings and panels are really important for that, and have hope.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Please. Yeah. Hello. I'm Anna. I'm a professor of biological psychology in Germany, and in the past year, it has happened 3 times to me that I got an email and asked to be in a symposium. And I said no 3 times. Apparently, I don't have a problem saying no. And each time I suggested the lead author of the paper that they were interested in, or the line of work, which were my PhD students or postdocs. And 3 times I've gotten the response, thank you, but we're actually looking for you as a woman. And I don't know how I feel about that. In one way, it's good, like at OHBM or other symposia, other conferences, that they make a point to have women represented in symposia. Yeah. But at the other hand, I feel like, okay, they didn't ask me because of my work or that specific paper. They asked because I'm one of the few women in that line of work.
Yeah. But if you're good at that work, then you get out there. Yes, that is happening. I know, and it's the same thing as the minority tax that I was talking about before. But the plus side is you get your face out there, you get to be known out there, and next time you're organizing the symposium.
Yeah, no, that's not the point. I am organizing my own symposium here now. That's not. I just couldn't go, and I didn't want to go, and I think that it just feels like, well, they didn't ask. Maybe they just didn't ask because of that specific paper, but just because I'm a woman of that paper. So it's not that I have no problem saying no to that event. It's not that I want to be there. It just feels like conflicting. I understand why they ask it. It's always men that ask with 3 men, and then they look for a 4th woman.
But they're looking for a woman who's a good speaker. I mean, I wouldn't sell yourself short there. They are typically asking their male buddies, and then they're realizing, oh wait, there have to be women out there, and there are women out there, and you're one of them. Yeah. So I think if you can frame that in that regard, they wouldn't ask you if they didn't think you could do the job.
Yeah, okay. That's what I wanted to hear.
I get the sense that it's also, we're kind of in the movement now. So I think no one really knows the rules or what's going on. So I feel like sometimes there's really good intention, but people just don't know what's good, what's not, how to ask, who to ask. And so maybe that's actually like something good for us to consider, is how to maybe make this a more approachable kind of process, and what are the expectations, and what how can we help kind of this process?
Yeah. I was asked to give a talk because we need a foreign speaker. So sometimes you get chosen. I mean, yes, they also want to hear about anatomy, but they need a foreign speaker. If you didn't want to go, if it didn't interest you, and blah blah and everything you said, it's fine to say no, but don't say no out of principle just because you think that maybe, because if you're out there and
then I would have, if I had said yes, I wouldn't have found out, right? I would have just thought they're interested in the paper. It's just when I say no, then I get the response, and I suggest someone else, and it's a male PhD student that did the work.
Yes.
Then I get, but we actually, we want a woman, not, the lead author of the paper. So that just feels, I understand it, and it just feels like a little conflicting for me.
Yes, it is difficult. And I mean, I want to get invited because people like my work, and not because they can tick a box by having my name on the thing. But
at least, I was going to say, think about it this way. There are lots of women on this table who fought very hard to have that become the rule now. And I think it's important to just value that as well, and say if it works for you, you say yes, and if it doesn't work for you, you definitely say no. But there are people who fought hard for that, because otherwise they would just be asking their buddies, because they're not going by merit system as well. They're deciding who are they going to go to have beer with after the symposium. symposium is over. So now they're like, oh, I can't just invite all my beer buddies. I really do need to invite actual, credible speakers as well, and you're one of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's where the conflict is, because I
No,
do support it.
But to Ruchika's point, like, the rest of the time they've been inviting people because they're male, right? Like, they don't want to consider women. So now we're in the stage where they have to. So what's wrong with it? Yeah. Take the credit and go for it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Halima, and I'm a postdoc at EPFL in Switzerland. I'm a cognitive neuroscientist. And I had a question about, it's just related to this. It's this thing that I feel like a lot of people have experienced, where oftentimes people who are your supervisors, they put the name for like, oh, there's this new project or there's this analysis, we can include this friend of mine and that friend of mine, or put up a postdoc or somebody, and oftentimes it's a male. And not always, but I've been thinking about this like feeling of like, do I take the risk? Because it feels like a risk to, I'm trying to like, and everyone I know is trying to advocate for themselves. But it feels risky, and I guess that every student feels, or like postdoc feels like, okay, do I take the risk or not? And I was just wondering if it's not you whose name is being put forth, and it is like a male colleague, but it's not appropriate for the male colleague, it's appropriate for you, or that's your perception, that's my perception. Do you have stories about, or experiences in which, I'm sure you have experiences in which you had to really advocate for yourself to go up when somebody else wasn't advocating for you, when it wasn't your mentor advocating for you? And I was just wondering if you could share any of those.
Are you talking about being on a paper, or who's being first author? Can you be more specific?
Sure. Like, I'm not talking about a specific paper or a specific collaboration, but just like I've been in labs where data, it's decided who will have access to which data to analyze. And if I'm the person who does like dynamic functional connectivity, and there's an incoming person who does, I don't know, some longitudinal functional analysis, but it's a guy, I sometimes have the perception that they have, the first person to come into their mind is a guy. And I just want to be like very easily be like, I can do it. Like, that's okay. I don't need help. I got it. I don't if I want to collaborate, I'm happy to, but I'm happy to take the lead on the project.
Thanks so much for inviting someone to help me out with this.
Thanks so much for inviting somebody to help me out.
Yes, yeah, it would be very useful to have somebody help me with that. But in other words, reframing it and going ahead and doing what you want to do. I think if you start by defining what you want to do, and you don't want to wait for somebody to tell you what you should be doing, right? If you're a student and you've got a project, say, I'm going to do this project, and they say, oh, well, somebody does such and such. Oh, great, I'm happy to have him help me out with that. He can be second author. But, be forceful in, defining what your role is going to be. You can say it really nicely.
I also thought that one of the things you were asking is if we've had to advocate for ourselves, and I think the answer would be a very astounding yes. I think there are so many situations, and it doesn't stop whether you're a trainee or whether you are a full professor. I'm a distinguished professor now at my university. You still have to advocate for yourself, and I think you just have to learn ways in which you want to be, things that you're passionate about and things that you feel like you really are committed to, and never be shy in advocating for yourself, and also build a support network, because sometimes it's hard to just do it for yourself, but there could be other postdocs in the lab or another research scientist who could go and advocate on your behalf as well. But if you feel like there is a project that you're well deserving of, or if there is something that or an award that you want to be nominated, I think There are so many times that when I hear my junior colleagues say, oh, you have to self-nominate. For most awards, you do have to self-nominate or ask somebody else to nominate you. So it's a common thing that has happened in men's circles a lot, but it's something that we're catching up to here.
It's like an invisible thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I just want to add that, build your own network, your supporters, your allies. You need to identify those people at different stages. And also you have to know your strength, and you have to come up with proactively with a plan and solutions. In terms of science, you can quickly come up with, these are the questions, I want to do this. And just say it out loud, right? Now, don't wait and passively waiting something will come onto you, because maybe everybody is jumping on some topics, and after the OHBM, we've got so many ideas, and back to the lab, who is going to do what, right? So you have to really take the initiative to, say the first word. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to point out that academia is very competitive, and we see how maybe we are subdued or not given the opportunity. But the men are also being, we just maybe don't want to see it, but they're also being very competitive with each other. So if just forget the male versus female thing, and if you want to do something, just say you want to do it. Yeah.
Absolutely. I didn't mean to frame it as like a male versus female in my colleagues, my peers. But I just had this perception that there's almost an unbiased, a slightly biased leaning towards.
There is.
Yeah.
That's why we have to push ourselves forward so much, because there is that bias, and we are always having to fight with it and overcome it, unfortunately, and it doesn't get better.
So we're going towards the end of the session, so maybe a last short question.
Can you hear me?
We can repeat your question.
Okay, so I'm Janaína Miranda. I'm a professor from the Computer Science Department at the University College London. And the question I have is how you deal in leadership roles with microaggressions and sometimes not so microaggressions. Because my perception is the senior I got, the more of these aggressions I get. Like when I was in my postdoc years, it was very subtle. And then the senior I get sometimes subtle, sometimes not very subtle. No, I don't know if because I'm in a male-dominated field of computer science, AI, machine learning, but yeah, I have to deal, and I think many people here might have to deal with this. I just want to hear for women in leadership how you deal with this. It might be different in different environments, like I'm in an engineering environment, but yeah, it would be interesting to hear. So your experience in when you are in the leadership position. Yeah. So yeah, the question is how you deal with the microaggressions, which is like positive. There's this passive-aggressive towards women when they are in leadership, which I have the impression that the more senior I get, the worse they get. And yeah, I just want to hear what is your experience and how you deal with them.
Maybe I'll start because I'm probably the most junior and the least experienced of the bunch, and then you can get better answers. My PhD supervisor, who was a woman, told me to, develop a thick skin and don't drown in half a cup of water. So I've kind of kept that in my mind, and unfortunately, the higher up we go in academia and better positions, the more lonely the road is. I think we've just got to learn to accept that, even though I don't want to. It's a survival skill. We do get lonelier as we go higher, and this is why we have SIGs like this, where we kind of try not to feel so lonely, right? In my, I guess the least experience of this bunch, I think of what my long-term, where do I want to be in the longer run, and how much do I let those microaggressions bother me? Because if I get paralyzed by those, I don't reach my medium-term and long-term goal. So in most cases, I let it go, develop that thicker skin. If it's really bothering me and I can do something about it, I'll do something about it, either in a very polite manner, if somebody said something to me, I will make a point to deliver it back in a polite or not polite manner. And most times it's not polite, I would think. Try, the OHBM has roots like a blog post or something, like maybe highlight that topic and do it like not directly but indirectly, that you reach a bigger audience to deal with the microaggressions.
Yeah, I think there are a variety of different opinions on how to deal with that. And yes, you always have to have a thick skin. I just personally happen to be a believer in making the implicit explicit, and if somebody is making a microaggression, I will say in the nicest way possible, I'm sure you did not mean to imply that aggression. And because I think most people who make microaggressions don't really know that that's what they're doing. And when you make it explicit to them I try to couch it in humor, but really making it explicit, then people are usually abashed and they usually back off. And when you approach them with that, then you also let them know that you won't take any crap, which is also a good lesson to give to people.
I also want to add some tips I learned from some of the, I think, vice president or provost from Duke University when they visited Singapore. And then they said at their level, they also face the same thing. Like there's a group of meetings, senior leadership, and when they say a point, people ignore it. And when a man say the same point, then she would say, wait a minute, did I say that? Thank you for emphasizing my point. Something like that. Yeah. So, and I also feel like sometimes people, like let's say we have 3 people and then 2 men and me, and they basically keep talking and talking, and I cannot interrupt. And when I interrupt, they interrupt me. So sometimes I will have to say, please listen, or let me finish. Yeah. So I did that. I think it works.
I think that happens a lot at OHBM too.
Because I have a soft voice, and now I learn to be more definite, like statement, not question. Learn how to tell a story. Yes. Right. So all this, I think communication skills help.
And also it comes with practice. So what Susan just said so beautifully, you have to practice it on your own. And there's this person I follow, Jefferson Fisher, or what's his name? Jefferson Fisher. He has really good videos that you can, with sentences that you can say about if somebody is giving microaggressions or how to enter a difficult conversation. And there are tips, so sometimes I will just watch that video and practice it by myself before I enter that room. So these sentences are easier said than done, to even just say, did you really mean to say that? Did you really mean to intentionally hurt me? You can say it right now, but when in the heat of the moment, it's really hard to say those things. So just practice, and you'll get there. And improving your communication is going to go a long way, because yes, microaggressions, as you move up the leadership ladder, are more, and not just microaggressions, really aggressive statements as well. There are quite a lot of those as you move up the ladder.
So speaking of interrupting, I hate to interrupt this discussion because I think it's really amazing to hear all of this. And I think we can go on forever. Just like the fact that I didn't get to ask any of my questions because you all had such amazing questions lined up. I think that just emphasizes that we need to keep talking to each other and need to share our experience and ask questions, and how important it is to talk about these type of things together. So I'd like to thank our panel for participating in the panel today and for sharing their experiences and being so open and vulnerable. So please join me into thanking them. And thank you all so much for coming here today to listen to the panel. And I think then, I don't know if you still have anything to say. With that, I would like to close this session and have a great evening, everybody.